Coming to you live from Medellin Wellness Center here in Colombia. This is the Fredcast, and I am Fred Busch. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in the world. I am Fred Busch, and I am again very happy to be here with you guys for episode 5 of the Fredcast. I've got a great show organized for you today. We're going to have a really important question that's going to relate to eating vegan and whether that's healthy or not. We're going to discuss and debunk the myth that drinking a lot of water is a good thing. And we're also going to discuss about the nature of the mind and what we could call self-criticism or self-punishment and why we want to start to avoid that. And as always, we're going to close out our episode with a section or a chapter from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. In this case, or in today's chapter, we're going to be talking about giving, the nature of giving. So I'm really excited to get started, and let's just do that. Let's get started with our question coming from a listener, and she had emailed me and said, well, I switched to being a vegan about 2 years ago, and at first she was kind of discussing how she was feeling better, and but now she seems to have hit a plateau and has not actually been feeling that great lately. All right, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about eating vegan and whether that's a healthy decision, and why it is that somebody might eat vegan and not feel good or not feel as good as maybe they thought they might. So let's first define vegan to everybody, or we could also say plant-based. Those are synonyms, and what it means is that someone has made a decision that they're going to eat in a way that does not rely on any of the animal kingdom or any of the animal, what called quote-unquote animal foods. In other words, someone is going to live without eating any of the flesh foods, which is, of course, would be a vegetarian. Someone who lives without eating flesh foods, a vegetarian. But then a vegan takes it to the next step further and says, well, not only am I not going to eat the flesh foods, I'm also not going to eat the milks or the cheeses or any of the dairy foods, as well as the eggs. And of course, some vegans as well are also operating not just with the relationship to what's on their plate, but also to the relationship to how they live their life, and would not wear leather, and that's another step. Of course, all of it is in alignment. So that's what it means to be vegan. And so then the question is that healthy? Well, let's first just be very clear about it. Yes, it is healthy, but let's get more clear and say that it's actually healthier. Healthier than likely whatever the person was eating or doing before making a decision like that. So eating vegan is healthier likely than a person's previous diet, but is eating vegan healthy in and of itself? And the answer to that is, well, maybe, and maybe not. So somebody who is deciding to eat vegan has made a decision, which I call a level of consciousness decision, meaning that they are operating on a higher level of consciousness, and they're not interacting with any suffering or pain or torture, as far as relationships to other living beings, and so that's a high level of consciousness to make a decision like that. But is it healthy automatically? The answer is no, because it really simply depends on how you do it. So, let us not forget that it's easy to have chocolate chip cookies that are vegan. It's easy to have French fries that are vegan. I mean, look at the ingredients of a Coca-Cola. It's vegan. There's vegan comfort foods in every corner, and I eat all that stuff. At this point, I indulge and I eat vegan chocolate chip cookies sometimes, and I eat vegan, different foods that I consider emotional foods, and they're not actually healthy. And so, what is important is that if you're going to eat that stuff, that it's made into a very small relative proportion of your overall diet, and that what is a high overall proportion of your diet would be fruit. In other words, the only way to have vegan be healthy is when there is a really large proportion of fruit in the diet. And I'm talking about, 30 pieces of fruit a day or some really large amount of fruit every single day in order to make sure that you, as a human being, is getting everything that you need from the perspective of electromagnetism and the vitamins and the minerals and all the essential fatty acids and everything that comes in fruit. All the nutrition comes in fruit. Whereas this emotional vegan food that we find ourselves eating sometimes may fill our emotional stomach, but it's not really filling our biological needs. So, eating vegan is a very, commendable decision when it comes to your level of consciousness and your spirituality. But if you want it to be a good decision for you personally, well, then you have to do that in a way that's eating a lot of fruit. Now, I'm not saying eating a lot of salad. I'm saying eating a lot of fruit. Now, you are welcome to eat salad. Salads are wonderful. Salads can be used for meals with avocado, and it's a great meal. But what I am suggesting is to guarantee health inside of a vegan diet, we would want to eat as much fruit as humanly possible. All right, well, thank you for the question. And again, I am very happy to answer these questions because, I always recognize, excuse me, I always recognize how, one person asks a question, and it's a question I've heard, many, many times over the years as a teacher of this subject of nutrition and the relationship between food and well-being, of course, which there's a direct relationship. All right, so it's time to tackle a nutrition myth. I always am happy to knock down and debunk misinformation and information that is bringing people into lesser and lesser states of well-being. People are very suggestible, and it's the nature of things that people hear things from an authority, and then all of a sudden that becomes a fact, and then that becomes, something that they live their life by when it wasn't even true in the first place. And so kind of that's my goal here on this podcast is to, be able to help you guys kind of clarify what is true, what is not true in this fascinating world of nutrition and experts where everybody has a different opinion and everybody has the letters doctor by their name. And so today's myth is going to be that water is good to drink a lot of water. That's the myth. It's good to drink a lot of water. Anyone heard that before? Drink 8 or 10 glasses of water every day. I've heard that my whole life. So let's talk about that. Is that really true? Drinking a lot of water? I think that when people say drink a lot of water, they're interested in a person being hydrated. And so I think it's important that you understand that actually water by itself doesn't really hydrate you. Unless that water has something else with it, has electrically charged minerals that are called electrolytes. Now, if that water contains electrolytes from a natural source, and now we're not talking about some marketing ploy like Gatorade, which says that they have electrolytes. As a result, Gatorade is hydrating, because that is, again, marketing and misinformation. The nature of Gatorade is that it's also not hydrating, but that's for other reasons. It's because it is an acidic quality, and the body doesn't receive hydration from acidic-based chemistry. But now I'm speaking about electrolytes coming from fruit, coming from a lemon, coming from, a blue-green algae mixed into the water, something whereby now you're going to take your water, you're going to mix it with a piece of fruit or something, you're going to bring electrolytes into that water, and then it's hydrating, and then it is good. And then, yes, you do want to drink your 8 to 10 glasses of hydrating fluid every day, and that's because humans, as a result of our lifestyle, are chronically dehydrated. The organism, because of how much toxicity we're exposed to, and the way that we're exercising a lot of times, and just the way that we're eating and how dehydrating the food is that we're eating, it just creates a situation where humans are very dehydrated. And what's the number one symptom of dehydration? This is something that I wish everybody would know, because it would just save so many people going to a pharmacy and buying pills. Well, the number one symptom of dehydration is a headache, or headaches. And so, it's very important that you are going to hydrate, and you're going to get your fluids, but it's very important that it not just be pure water. Let that water, squeeze a lemon into it, or mix it into a smoothie, or do something whereby you're going to be able to get electrolytes along with your hydrating fluid, as opposed to just pure water. Remember, water, you have to be very careful with water, because there's a lot of water these days that's not really chemically clean, or even energetically clean. It's easy for water to be polluted, and it's not easy for it to get really well cleaned. And so the best water comes from fruit anyway. The best water has been cleaned through the root system of a plant. And that's why, when you are eating fruit and melons, like watermelon and things like that, we're going to require to drink less water, because you're getting so much water in your food. So if you want water to be hydrating, it has to have electrolytes. It has to come from a fruit, or has to be mixed in with a fruit or something like that. Don't believe the marketing ploys of the Gatorades and the Powerades and the people that are selling you, refined sugar mixed with food coloring. And then they throw a couple of minerals in there, and they call those electrolytes, and then they say, well, this is what you want as you're an athlete. It's amazing to me that the world-class athletes tolerate being brainwashed like that into drinking something that is so anti-health, or we could even say anti-performance or anti-vitality, like those Gatorades and those Powerades. So, that's clearly not what we mean when we talk about, high electrolytes, or drinking something that is actually going to be valuable to you. If you're an athlete and you're looking for a sports drink, the best one would be mix a frozen banana into your water. So let's go into our section into that, and then freeze that overnight, and then use skills and the awarenesses that we learn in your race. And you're going to get tradition and the wisdom, your fuel that you need with your banana. Applying that to our daily life with your lemon and your hydration. Today I want to talk about self-criticism. Really, I want to talk about self-judgment. I want to talk about self-punishment. And I want to make you very aware that if there's one thing that you want to start to become more and more aware of, it is the tendency, or the capacity that we have for self-criticism. So Let's first, understand that there's a very big difference between self-analysis and self-criticism. I think that people confuse these things a lot, and I think that people believe that they are actually just analyzing themselves so that they can like improve themselves, and they look at it like that's what they're doing, but really what they're doing is something different than that. They're doing self-analysis, but then upon reaching some sort of conclusion, then begins something that's called self-judgment, which of course leads to self-criticism, which then leads to self-punishment. All of these things are cyclical, and they kind of feedback with each other. The more self-critical we are, the more we're punishing ourselves, the weaker we get, and then the more likely we are to repeat mistakes. So what I wanted to tell you is that there is a difference between self-analysis and self-judgment. I think that all of us are able to look at our actions and see whether we got the results that we were looking for or whether we didn't get the results that we're looking for. And that's self-analysis. It's kind of like a scientific method where, you look at an equation, you look at the result, and you say, oh, that was a happy result or that was a non-happy result. That's something I either want to do again because I like the result, or something I do not want to do again because I did not like the result. And that really is where it should end. Self-analysis should lead to a conclusion about whether you're going to continue on with that course of action, continue on repeating that sort of pattern, or whether you're going to evolve and do something different for your own reasons. And so that's self-analysis, and that's a good thing. It's always good to take stock of your situation and see in what direction you're heading, and again analyze, well, that's somewhere I do want to go or somewhere where I don't want to go. But you see, self-criticism is something else entirely, because with self-criticism, you make that conclusion and you say, oh, that's not somewhere I want to go. And then you start piling it on and you say, oh, well, that's because it's my fault, and that's because I'm not a good enough person, or that's because I should have done it differently, and had I done it differently, then everything would have been better. And so you start creating a story whereby if you had been different or had been better or had been in some way able to change, then everything would be different or better in your life. And that self-criticism and that self-judgment and that self-punishment is totally, totally unnecessary and unacceptable. Why? Because you're wasting your energy. You don't improve yourself because you're very good at punishing yourself. No, it's the other way around. As I was saying, the more you self-punish by self-criticism and self-judgment, the more that you are your worst enemy, the weaker you become as a being. And then when you're in a similar situation to the one that causes self-criticism in the first place, then you'll repeat the same pattern because you're not strong enough to do something different yet. But this is where compassion comes in. This is where, understanding that, you made a mistake, and that's what human beings do, and you don't wish to repeat that mistake again, and so you won't, and thus there's nothing else to discuss, and there's no more reason for hurting yourself or criticizing or judging yourself as a bad person because a mistake was made. All right, so self-criticism is something that it has some anecdotes. In other words, people might ask, well, all right, well, how do you do it? Well, first thing is always awareness. You have to be aware that you're doing it. You have to become the observer of your mind and the observer of your tendency to judge yourself. And once you become aware of it, see, then it's no longer an unconscious pattern, and then you're able to transcend it. We call it transcend it, or to rise above it. And that happens because you have brought awareness to the situation. And once you bring awareness to the situation, pretty much the remedy for all things within our mind is called a sense of humor. A sense of humor, or gratitude. These are different frequencies that are extremely effective for neutralizing the negative field of self-punishment and self-criticism. In other words, you could start self-criticizing yourself, and then you could become aware of it and say, oh my gosh, that's funny. That's funny that I would criticize myself when I'm here just doing my best, and I'm here, and it's not easy here in 2021, and here I am. I'm so compassionate to everybody else, and here I am judging myself and criticizing myself. That is funny. That is actually requiring me to laugh. That I would have so little compassion for myself and so much compassion for everybody else. That is worthy of me smiling instead of hurting myself. You see, so that's one way, and then of course another way is just with pure gratitude, and you're realizing that having an opportunity to bring awareness to your patterns is a great gift, and may quote unquote may God be praised for this opportunity to be in this universe, which is a university where you're here to make mistakes so that you can evolve in your own time, and again, like, it's all God's will anyway. So no judgment and no criticism. And really, that's the way to be able to have the strength and the power to evolve and to change patterns if you choose to. All right, so now we're heading into what I always consider one of my favorite parts here of the episode, which is where I will read a chapter from the prophet. Today's episode has been probably a little shorter than the other ones, but sometimes the things I have to say can really get extrapolated, and sometimes they're rather simple. I think today's subjects were relatively simple, and so we just knock them out just like that. As always, though, I'd love to hear your questions and be able to speak more in detail to whatever kind of is going on with you guys. This will be my last session here that I will be recording from Meditating Wellness for now, as I start to travel a little bit. My next episode will be in Miami, where I'll be for a short spell, and then heading right to Peru for the 24th of April, where I'll be beginning a program, both online program and an in-person program, a yoga teacher training program. All right, so let's get to it. We are at the prophet. We've just read the section on the chapter on children. And now let's hear the continuation of the prophet by Khalil Gibran. Then said a rich man, "Speak to us of giving." And he answered, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. For what are your possessions but things you keep and guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the over-prudent dog burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? And what is fear of need but need itself? Is not dread of thirst when your well is full, the thirst that is unquenchable? I really appreciate that he says these things. He says, "For what are your possessions but things you keep and guard for fear you may need them tomorrow? And tomorrow, what shall tomorrow bring to the overzealous dog burying bones in the trackless sand as he follows the pilgrims to the holy city? There are those who give little of the much which they have, and they give it for recognition, and their hidden desire makes their gifts unwholesome. And there are those who have little and give it all. These are the believers in life and the bounty of life, and their coffer is never empty. There are those who give with joy, and that joy is their reward. And there are those who give with pain, and that pain is their baptism. And there are those who give and know not pain in giving, nor do they seek joy, nor give with mindfulness of virtue. They give, as in yonder valley the myrtle breathes its fragrance into space. Through the hands of such as these God speaks, and from behind their eyes he smiles upon the earth. It is well to give when asked, but it is better to give unasked through understanding. And to the open-handed, the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than giving. And is there aught you would withhold? All you have shall some day be given. Therefore give now, that the season of giving may be yours and not your inheritors. You often say, I would give, but only to the deserving. The trees in your orchard say not so, nor the flocks in your pasture. They give that they may live, for to withhold is to perish. Surely he who is worthy to receive his days and his nights is worthy of all else from you. And he who has deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your little stream. And what desert greater shall there be than that which lies in the courage and the confidence, nay, the charity of receiving? And who are you that men should rend their bosom and unveil their pride, that you may see their worth naked and their pride unabashed? See first that you yourself deserve to be a giver and an instrument of giving. For in truth, it is life that gives unto life, while you who deem yourself a giver are but a witness. And you receivers, and you are all receivers, assume no weight of gratitude, lest you lay a yoke upon yourself and upon him who gives. Rather, rise together with the giver on his gifts as on wings. For to be over mindful of your debt is to doubt his generosity, who has the free-hearted earth for mother and God for father. Man, there are some really, really important things that he says there. Wow. I guess the last one is one that I've always had. For in truth it is life that gives unto life, while you who deem yourself a giver are but a witness. And he who deserved to drink from the ocean of life deserves to fill his cup from your little stream. These are extremely powerful metaphors. So, generosity is such a blessing, to be able to be generous, to be able to give, and to be aligned with life, which is always giving. It's always giving us. We take it all for granted, but when we open our eyes, we'll see that we're just receivers, and we have been blessed with so many gifts that are being given every moment in our lives. And so let's keep the giving going. If you have money, then be generous and help ease suffering. Use your money for power and to help ease suffering, and to marshal energy in a direction so that you can really be the hands of God. And that's what karma yoga is all about. And volunteering and doing all the things that you can do with your time, and also with your financial resources, if you have the power. Helping people is probably the most joyful thing we can all do. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for hanging in here for episode 5. I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're getting a little bit out of it. I hope that you can take some of the things that you're hearing, and if some of it doesn't make sense, you can always listen to it again. A lot of times the stuff that is talked about or spoken about in these wisdom traditions really resonates deeper and deeper within us as we gain exposure 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I often listen to the same teachers giving the same lectures 50, 60, 70 times, and every single time it's as if I've never heard it, because I'm a different person, because every time I hear it I can grow, or I can see more insightfully, and then the next time I hear it I'm literally a different person because of the change that was made from the first time I heard it. And I think that's true for this stuff. These chapters of the prophet, as I read them, for the 70th or 80th time, again, it's as if I've never heard it before. It's so powerful and so important and so relevant. So signing off here from Medellin Wellness Center. Again, we got some program coming up in April 24th. That's online, so you could do it anywhere in the world. And if you have any interest in coming here to Colombia and applying the Dr. Morse system of healing with the fruit and the herbs and the nature and the yoga and the meditation and the horseback riding and everything that we have here, then just contact me, and maybe the time has come and you're ready for a retreat, or you're ready to transform and eliminate any symptoms you got. That's why we built the place, Medellin Wellness Center, Finca Bienestar, here outside of Medellin. Well, signing off for now. Again, please email me any questions. Fred Busch, FredBusch at miamiyoga.com, and I will be happy to answer them on the next episode or soon thereafter. Have a great day, great morning, great afternoon, and great evening from here in Colombia. I love you all.